I had just climbed out of the mine shaft when my biological parents found me. I was covered in coal dust, dirty and disheveled. I could tell my biological parents were disgusted by the sight of me. Especially my biological father, who said, "Hire another car for him, don't let him get the family car dirty." My biological mother, trying to hide her disgust, said with concern, "Honey, you've suffered these years. Once you've gone home and cleaned up, Mom will make it up to you." Then, they hurried into their car. Accompanying them was their adopted daughter, named Amanda Smith. She looked at me, then at her pink Maserati, and finally sighed, "Get in my car. There are showers at the mine, I can shower, change, and then get in the car," I replied listlessly and went to shower. After changing, I got into Amanda Smith's Maserati and headed to my biological parents' home. After arriving at the Smith Manse, I didn't see my biological parents but instead saw someone about my age, Ryan Johnson, the fake young master of the family, the one who was switched with me at birth. Ryan Johnson came forward with a beaming smile, took my hand, and said, "I should call you brother, right? Don't worry, I won't play the real versus fake young master game. We'll be brothers from now on, let's get along." As he spoke, he stuffed a fruit knife into my hand and pulled me towards him, trying to stab himself. At our first meeting, Ryan Johnson put a fruit knife in my hand and tried to get me to stab him. Was this some kind of bizarre Goof family welcoming ceremony? I'm lazy, but I'm strong, so he couldn't make it happen. He pulled hard but couldn't move me. When he looked at me again, he blinked with innocent eyes. Then, he tried to pull again. I pointed to the phone hanging from my chest and said laconically, "Documenting life." Ryan Johnson got scared and immediately let go of my hand. Just then, Amanda Smith, who had parked the car, came in. Seeing me holding a fruit knife and Ryan Johnson King terrified, her expression turned strange. I couldn't be bothered to explain and casually put the fruit knife in Ryan Johnson's hand. "Sis, you're back. I asked Emily Brown to make you some oatmeal. I'll go get it for you," Ryan Johnson said, his face full of obsequiousness. "Not hungry." Amanda Smith shook her head, then looked at me and asked, "Max Thompson, are you hungry?" "Too lazy to eat." I walked over to the sofa, plopped down, took out snacks from my backpack, and started stuffing them into my mouth with a lifeless expression. This is my life. If I can sit, I won't stand. If I can lie down, I won't sit. Tired? Amanda Smith asked with concern. SOSO. I kept eating, then took out my tablet, coding with my left hand and scrolling through videos on my phone with my right, occasionally stuffing snacks into my mouth. Amanda Smith and Ryan Johnson looked at me like I was a monster. Ryan Johnson especially came over and said with feigned concern, "Brother, you've suffered these years and haven't learned the rules of wealthy families. If others see you like this, it will make the Goof family lose face, but don't worry, I'll teach you social etiquette." Too lazy to learn, I yawned, and kindly reminded him, "The mine is very busy. Are you sure you don't want to go home and help? In my opinion, you should at least see your biological parents, otherwise, I wouldn't have bothered coming back to the Smith Manse." So I thought he should want to see his biological parents, too. But Ryan Johnson's lips twitched, and his eyes instantly turned red. "Brother, if you don't want me in the Goof family, then I'll leave." Whatever. I could tell he said he wouldn't play the real versus fake young master game, but he still wanted to compete. Compete for what? Property? I'm not interested. I wanted to tell him I wasn't interested in money, but I knew he wouldn't believe me because no normal person would. So I didn't bother explaining. Amanda Smith walked over and sat next to me, saying, "Mom and Dad said they're going abroad for a few days and will make it up to you when they get back. They hope you won't overthink it." Okay. I nodded, looking like my soul could float out of my head at any moment. Amanda Smith looked a little helpless, then looked at Ryan Johnson and asked, "Is the room ready?" "It's still being prepared, but I value brother very much, so I'm preparing a lot." "Sis, why don't we let brother stay in the guest room today?" Ryan Johnson said with some feigned difficulty. Amanda Smith frowned, seeming to see through Ryan Johnson's little scheme. "Max Thompson just got back. How can he stay in the guest room?" "He's family, not a guest." "I see. In this family, am I the only outsider?" Ryan Johnson said, and started crying. I saw Amanda Smith roll her eyes. I wanted to roll my eyes, too, but I was too lazy. "I don't care where I stay, as long as there's a window for ventilation," I said casually. Amanda Smith breathed a sigh of relief, seemingly glad that this real young master wasn't difficult. "Then pick any room you want, except for Mom and Dad's, and I'll personally arrange your room tomorrow." Ryan Johnson said with a wronged expression, "Sis, I can arrange a room for brother too." Amanda Smith completely ignored him and instead said to me, "I have to go to a company meeting this afternoon. If anything comes up, you can wait until I get back tonight." "Okay," I replied and continued to lie like a corpse on the sofa. Amanda Smith shook her head, seemingly a little helpless at my laziness. She left quickly, indicating that she held an important position in the company. After she left, Ryan Johnson said to me, "Brother, let me take you to a good room, you'll be satisfied." "Okay." I got up reluctantly. If I could lie naked like a corpse in the living room, I would stay in the living room. I really couldn't be bothered to move an inch. As for Ryan Johnson's attempts to curry favor, I knew this kid was up to no good, but I didn't care. Sure enough, he took me to a room on the second floor. The room smelled fragrant, with a dressing table full of skincare products and a large bed covered with light pink bedding. There were even photos of Amanda Smith on the dressing table. I looked at Ryan Johnson with some exasperation, thinking, does this kid think I'm stupid? Can't he tell this is Amanda Smith's room? But Ryan Johnson pretended not to notice, smiled at me, and said, "Brother, if you think this place is good, then rest here first." "Okay." I nodded. Although I knew he was trying to trick me, I was too lazy to find another room. I wanted to take a shower and then lie on the bed like a corpse. Ryan Johnson couldn't help but smile, then immediately ran out, as if afraid I would change my mind. I took a shower and then went to be a corpse. After dark, I was woken up by Amanda Smith's soft cough. She was standing in front of the bed in a black professional suit, with a cold face, as if waiting for me to explain. Ryan Johnson was beside her, saying softly, "Sis, I can't help it, brother insisted on staying in your room. I told him you're a neat freak, but brother just wouldn't listen." "Comfortable?" Amanda Smith held back for a long time and finally asked those 3 words. I thought she would be angry. After all, Ryan Johnson was working hard to stir things up. I rubbed my eyes and nodded seriously. "Comfortable. The incense helps me sleep." "Then you can sleep here." Amanda Smith looked at me in surprise, seemingly not expecting that I knew incense helped with sleep. Seeing this, Ryan Johnson said with a wronged expression, "Sis, you used to get upset if I entered your room. Why can brother sleep in your room? Hungry?" Amanda Smith ignored him and instead looked at me with a smile and asked. I nodded and added, "Don't want to get out of bed." "Okay, I'll bring it up to you." Amanda Smith nodded, turned, and left. Ryan Johnson's eyes widened, and he said through gritted teeth, "Why? Yo. You're so good to him as soon as he gets back. You're a neat freak, but you let him sleep in your bed and even let him eat in your bed. Why?" I was too lazy to speak, so I took out my phone and started watching videos. Ryan Johnson felt like a clown but didn't leave, seemingly wanting to see how I would eat in Amanda Smith's bed. Before long, Amanda Smith pushed in a food cart. The food cart had a small table that could be pulled out to use as a table, so I only needed to sit up to eat. I sat up listlessly, first rinsed my mouth, then ate silently. Amanda Smith went to the desk and used her computer to handle company affairs, not looking at me at all. Ryan Johnson came over and picked up the juice from the food cart. I knew he wanted to harm me and would probably spill the juice on the bed, then accuse me of being rude to Amanda Smith, who was a neat freak. Although I didn't know how Amanda Smith would react, I was sure that if he succeeded, I would have to change rooms. I'm lazy, I don't want to move. So I picked up my phone and pointed it at him. The juice that Ryan Johnson was about to spill froze in place, and he handed the juice to me with a sheepish smile, saying, "Brother, drink juice." "Don't want to drink." I looked towards Amanda Smith, who was also looking over. In that accidental eye contact, I found her eyes were beautiful and seemed to be able to see through everything. "Ryan Johnson, you're about to take the college entrance exam. Don't you need to study?" Amanda Smith said. Ryan Johnson's lips twitched, knowing he was being told to leave, so he had no choice but to go. After I finished eating, the housekeeper came in to clean up. Then, I continued to code with my left hand and scroll through my phone with my right. Before I knew it, I realized that more than 3 hours had passed, and I was sleepy again. I planned to take a shower and then go to sleep. At this time, Amanda Smith also finished her work. She came over and put a bottle of herbal medicine on the bedside table, saying, "Herbal medicine, for brain nourishment." "Thanks, sis." I looked at her suspiciously, wondering how she knew I needed brain nourishment. But she had already left the room. I was too lazy to ask, so I took a shower, took the medicine, and fell asleep quickly. In the following days, I hardly left the room. Ryan Johnson always wanted to cause trouble but never had the chance. Amanda Smith did work on official business in the room every day, but we hardly talked. One day, when I was still sleeping in bed, the quilt was suddenly pulled off. After I was awakened, I found that my biological parents had returned, and it was my biological father who had pulled my quilt. "How can you be sleeping here?" Mr. Smith rebuked angrily. "Brother, even though the sister is adopted, you should still be mindful. If people find out that you, the real young master of the Gu family, are sleeping in your sister's room as soon as you return, what kind of image is that? The Smith-Monsi's reputation cannot be ruined like this." Ryan Johnson immediately added fuel to the fire. Mrs. Smith even cried out in grief, "What a disaster! How can my son be like this? I don't want to live anymore." Mr. Smith scolded, "You are at an age where you should be studying. Why are your thoughts filled with these improper ideas? Aren't you getting up?" I casually pulled the quilt back, covered myself again, and pressed something on my phone again. Then, the lights in the room went off, and the projector was turned on. The projector was playing the surveillance footage of the room, from when Ryan Johnson brought me in up to this very moment. I was too lazy to speak, but I didn't want to be falsely accused. Mr. and Mrs. Smith looked at Ryan Johnson, their expressions changing. But Mr. Smith said, "Your brother brought you here to give you a good environment, but you should also know to avoid suspicion." Mrs. Smith sighed, "After all, he grew up in the countryside, he has no manners and doesn't know how to consider others." I could tell that they didn't care about right or wrong, they simply didn't like me. If they didn't like me, why did they insist on finding me and bringing me back? I was helpless, but I didn't want to say more. Fortunately, Amanda Smith came back and got me out of the situation. But as they left the room, I heard Mr. Smith say something unpleasant, something along the lines of, "You need to be more careful. In the future, you will be involved in an arranged marriage for the Gu family. If your reputation is ruined, you won't be worth anything." I saw Amanda Smith's profile when she heard this, expressionless, as if she was already dead. Then, I was called downstairs for dinner again. At the dinner table, Mr. and Mrs. Smith had Ryan Johnson sandwiched between them. They looked more like a family of 3. Ryan Johnson was also very likable and knew how to say things that made them happy. Mr. and Mrs. Smith would look at me with disappointment and then look at Ryan Johnson with relief, as if they were making comparisons. Ryan Johnson then suddenly said, "Brother, did you go to school in the countryside?" "Graduated," I said casually. Mr. Smith frowned. "You and Ryan Johnson are the same age. He's only a senior in high school, and you've graduated? What did you study?" "Computer science and welding," I said truthfully. Mr. Smith slammed the table and said, "How can a child of the Goof family learn welding, something that is not presentable?" Mrs. Smith quickly added, "Ryan Johnson is now a senior at Sunny Valley High School and has hopes of getting into the Ivy League. You should go there for half a year. Even if you can't get into a good university, your father and I can donate a building and get you into a good school to get a diploma." "But I've already graduated." I wanted to tell them that I was in the early entrance program at MIT, had already graduated, and even had a job. This time, I was home visiting family, and I would be going back to work soon. But my workplace was top secret, so I couldn't even mention it. Plus, I was lazy, so I didn't explain. Mr. Smith slammed the table again and scolded, "You dare to talk back? I've decided that tomorrow, you will report to Hill Valley High." Wow, they were sending me back for a redo? If I remember correctly, I had come to Sunny Valley High School to guide work the year I graduated from MIT. I wanted to see the expression on the principal's face when he saw me going to his school to study. At this time, guests arrived. It was a family of 3. The middle-aged man and woman looked very wealthy. There was also a man about Amanda Smith's age, quite handsome, but with sunken eyes and a pale complexion. He looked like he had been drained by wine and women. I also noticed that Amanda Smith's expression was very ugly when she saw that man. An arranged marriage partner? At this time, the two sides had already greeted each other. The middle-aged man and woman seemed to like Ryan Johnson very much. The man kept staring at Amanda Smith, occasionally licking his lips, looking very lecherous. Mr. Smith frowned when he saw that I hadn't gotten up, and said, "His name is Max Thompson. He will change his surname to Goo in the future. He is my son who was abducted and just found. He has no manners." Then, he asked me to greet them. I greeted Uncle Brian and Aunt Susan in a very perfunctory manner. Ryan Johnson then said, "Brother, this is our future brother-in-law." I looked at the lecherous man and then at the pale-faced Amanda Smith and finally stood up. Amanda Smith seemed to glance at me, and her eyes seemed to have a pleading look. I walked up to Amanda Smith, cupped her face in my hands, and kissed her directly. Then, everyone seemed to be petrified. I straightened up again, put my hand on Amanda Smith's shoulder, and looked at them, saying, "Let me introduce Amanda Smith, my girlfriend." Silence, dead silence. Then, the lecherous man charged towards me. By the way, the lecherous man's name was Tom Wilson. "You dare to kiss my fiancé?" Tom Wilson roared, grabbing a plate from the table. I also pushed Ryan Johnson over. Crash! The plate directly smashed into Ryan Johnson's head, shattering into pieces. Ryan Johnson cried out in pain, covering his head, blood seeping through his fingers. I quickly pulled Amanda Smith up, shielded her behind me, and said to them in a lifeless tone, "Amanda Smith and I have been together for a long time. I live in her room. You can ask if you don't believe me." "You?" Mr. Smith was so angry that he couldn't speak. Mrs. Smith seemed to be a crybaby and started crying directly in her chair, saying that the family was unlucky. Tom Wilson's family of 3 were also very embarrassed to stay, so they left directly. The restaurant was still silent. I held Amanda Smith's hand, feeling her trembling, not knowing if she was afraid or excited. Mr. Smith stared at me, saying, "You want to die?" "Don't want to," I said in a lifeless tone. "Amanda Smith is my girlfriend. No one can take her away." Then, I pulled Amanda Smith to leave. Ryan Johnson chased after us, blocking my way and saying, "Brother, you can't do this. I can't watch you do something that hurts the Gu family." Bang! I kicked him out, and Ryan Johnson flew away. Then I looked at my biological parents and said, "I have no demands in returning to this family, except for Amanda Smith." I pulled Amanda Smith away, not giving them a chance to refute me. Back in the room, Amanda Smith and I sat on the bed, staring at each other. "I know you don't want an arranged marriage." I held it in for a long time before saying a word. Amanda Smith pursed her lips. She was really good looking, just like her name, a single glance to topple a city, a second to topple a nation. Just pursing her lips was so good looking that I wanted to kiss her again. What did it feel like just now? Soft, cool, like it had suction. "Then why are you helping me?" Amanda Smith finally asked. "You're a neat freak. Mom and Dad dislike me, but you're willing to let me ride in your car. Your room is so clean and tidy, and I'm so sloppy, but you're willing to let me sleep here. You're also very concerned about me. You can see that I'm overworking my brain. Anyway, you're good to me, so I'll be good to you." That's what my parents taught me. The parents I was talking about were my adoptive parents, not my biological parents. "What about the future?" Amanda Smith asked again. "Can you protect me for the rest of my life?" "Can. As long as you're willing, I'll take you to a place where no one will dare to control your life again," I said with certainty. Amanda Smith hesitated but ultimately couldn't say what she wanted to say. I wanted to know what she was thinking, but I didn't know how to ask. The next day, I was woken up by Amanda Smith. She was sleeping next to me, but we didn't do anything. Actually, I had the guts and the desire, but I was too sleepy and fell asleep as soon as I lay down. After washing up, we went downstairs. I held Amanda Smith's hand, which was also to kill my biological parents' desire to marry Amanda Smith off. Their faces were very ugly when they saw me. Mr. Smith, in particular, said as soon as Amanda Smith sat down, "Amanda Smith, your position in the company has been revoked, and your cards will be stopped." Mrs. Smith said softly, "Catherine, just listen to Mom and Dad and agree to the arranged marriage. We can all see that Max Thompson is just putting on an act with you. They're not too stupid, they figured it out." Mr. Smith also said, "Amanda Smith, I've stopped your position, you will lose a lot of face in the industry, and I've stopped your cards, so you won't be able to live the luxurious life you've become accustomed to. Are you sure you can handle it?" Amanda Smith lowered her head, not saying anything, quietly eating breakfast, a silent resistance. I felt around in my pocket, found a card, and put it in front of Amanda Smith, saying, "Swipe as much as you want." Ryan Johnson's lips twitched, and couldn't help but laugh. "Brother, how much money can a country bumpkin like you have? Aren't your adoptive parents miners who have been working in the mine all their lives? Not that I look down on them, but can those smelly miners have money?" I looked at him coldly and said, "The smelly miners you're talking about are your biological parents." Ryan Johnson's expression froze, and then he said, "The kindness of raising is greater than the kindness of birth." He looked at Mr. and Mrs. Smith and said, "Mom and Dad, in my heart, you are my mom and dad." Mr. and Mrs. Smith nodded with satisfaction, but I could see the contempt they had for Ryan Johnson in their eyes. Who would care about the affection of someone who doesn't even recognize his biological parents? I felt bad. I felt bad for my adoptive parents because they still wanted Ryan Johnson to go back. Ryan Johnson then stared at me and said, "As for you, brother, you are a member of the Gu family. The future burden of the Smith-Monsey will fall on our shoulders, so you have to work hard and still let your sister get married." I looked at him deeply and said, "I MIT people when I'm too lazy to talk, don't provoke me." Seeming to remember being kicked by me yesterday, he didn't dare to speak. But Mr. and Mrs. Smith didn't continue to protect him either. I could tell that although they didn't like me, they did care about me. Because I was the one with the Gu family bloodline, the rightful heir of the Smith-Monsey. No matter how likable Ryan Johnson was, they wouldn't give the Gu family to him. My adoptive parents told me that families like the Gu family, with complex roots, place great importance on bloodlines. After breakfast, Mr. and Mrs. Smith offered to take me to school. Ryan Johnson quickly said, "Mom and Dad, I know the school well. I can take brother, no need to trouble you." Mrs. Smith said, "How can that be? It's our son's first day of school. If we don't show up, we'll be looked down upon." Mr. Smith also nodded and said, "Yes, we're not only going to take him but also let the whole school know that he's our biological son." Ryan Johnson clenched his fists. His face was very ugly, but he didn't dare to explode. A little over an hour later, the car stopped in front of the entrance of Sunny Valley High School. The students entering the school were all lining up to walk into the school gate. And the school leaders were already waiting at the school gate. There was even a banner that read, "Welcome President Gu to visit and guide." President Gu? The last time I came, the banner read, "Welcome Chief Engineer Su to visit and guide." This president wasn't the president of a company, it was the chief engineer. This time, it was changed to President Gu because they knew I was a member of the Gu family. It should be. After all, to enroll me, my information had to be given to the school, including photos. "Dad, you're so influential. The school leaders are here to welcome brother to school," Ryan Johnson immediately flattered, thinking that the banner was for Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith immediately perked up, but he seemed a little dazed inside. After all, Hill Valley High was a key provincial school, and the principal's rank was not low. They wouldn't give him so much face. Ryan Johnson then said, "Mom and Dad, I usually perform well, so you say, the school is so serious, I can take a little credit, right? Of course, I won't be proud. I will continue to work hard." Mrs. Smith nodded and said, "Ryan Johnson is great, Max Thompson, you should learn from your brother." But Mr. Smith didn't say anything because he knew that even a top Ivy League prospect wouldn't be valued to this extent. Or rather, valued for formalities. Amanda Smith quietly walked up to me and whispered in my ear, "What exactly is going on?" "They're welcoming me," I smiled. Then I realized that Amanda Smith believed me, she believed me. Then, we walked over. Mr. Smith reached out his hand, walking towards the principal. "Principal Green, I didn't expect you to." Principal Green ignored him, directly bypassed him, walked up to me, and bowed slightly, extending his hand and taking the initiative to shake my hand, saying, "After learning that you were home visiting family, we already sent out an invitation, but you rejected it. I never thought that you would enter Hill Valley High as a student. This?" The other computer science teachers immediately came over, first shaking hands with me, and then couldn't help but ask various difficult questions. Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Ryan Johnson were dumbfounded. Amanda Smith wasn't too surprised and just smiled at me. Mr. Smith couldn't help but ask, "Principal Green, are you mistaking someone?" "He's my son." "I know," Principal Green said. "So I already changed the welcome banner from Chief Engineer Su to President Gu." Principal Green said. "What kind of president is he?" Mr. Smith felt a little floaty. Principal Green didn't say, but said mysteriously, "Let's go inside and talk. This is not the place to talk." Then, we went to Hill Valley High's small auditorium, and I was arranged in the main seat by Principal Green. Not only that, they also prepared a lot of desserts and candies for me. Mr. Smith asked again, "Principal Green, what exactly is going on?" Principal Green said with some surprise, "Mr. Smith, don't you know how excellent your son is?" Mr. Smith also wanted to know, but he just didn't know. After he and Mrs. Smith learned that I was their biological son, they didn't bother to inquire much. Because they heard that I was raised by minors, they looked down on me from the bottom of their hearts. Ryan Johnson couldn't help but ask, "Principal, you? Who let you in?" Principal Green pointed outside and said, "Get out. No one is allowed to come in without my permission." Ryan Johnson opened his mouth wide, his face turning pale. When he was outside just now, he said that he was performing well, so the school valued him, covering himself in glory. But at this moment, his face was slapped hard. He walked away sheepishly, but Principal Green looked at Amanda Smith again. I quickly said, "She's my girlfriend." Principal Green nodded and became much more polite to Amanda Smith. Mr. Smith asked again, "Principal Green, please tell us." Max Thompson, Chief Engineer Sue, entered the early entrance program at MIT at the age of 11, started working 2 years later, and was responsible for the entire project the following year. 3 years ago, when Chief Engineer Sue came home to visit family, he came to our school to guide work, and our school's achievements in the field of computer science are all based on the foundation laid by Chief Engineer Sue. Principal Green looked at Mr. Smith strangely and said, "Mr. Smith, as the biological father of Chief Engineer Sue, don't you know anything about your son? Anyone would think you're deliberately insulting me by sending him to Sunny Valley High School." Mr. Smith's eyes widened. Mrs. Smith's, too. Even Amanda Smith looked at me in surprise and said, "You're that amazing?" I nodded, too lazy to speak, and ate my dessert, giving a piece to Amanda Smith. We only just found Max Thompson, so we don't know much about him," Mr. Smith said with an embarrassed smile. But when he looked at me, his eyes were full of pride. Mrs. Smith looked at me with much more affection. In short, I didn't have to go to school. But since I was here, I should help Hill Valley High solve some problems. Mr. and Mrs. Smith followed me the whole time. Some students at Hill Valley High recognized them. When they greeted them, Mr. and Mrs. Smith would proudly say that I was their son and that I was here to give guidance. I also saw Ryan Johnson following in the distance, watching me with a gloomy expression. Anyway, I wasn't released until it was almost dark. On the way home, I was sandwiched between Mr. and Mrs. Smith, who didn't know what to say to me, but they both looked proud. I'm the kind of person who's too lazy to do anything except work, so I was too lazy to even talk and just closed my eyes to rest. But I felt someone staring at me. When I opened my eyes, I saw Ryan Johnson's resentful gaze. Back home, Mr. and Mrs. Smith wanted to call everyone and announce my existence. I reminded them that they could say I was in the early entrance program or that I was a big shot in the computer field, but not to say too much because it was confidential. They understood and went to brag on the phone. I slumped on the sofa and scrolled through my phone, while Amanda Smith sat next to me, feeding me desserts from time to time. Ryan Johnson paced around nearby with a gloomy face for a while, but in the end, he didn't say anything. After dinner was ready, we went to the dining room. Ryan Johnson immediately said, "Mom and Dad, I will be as good as my brother. Your brother entered the early entrance program at the age of 11, and you're already 18, Mrs. Smith said a little harshly. Ryan Johnson, you need to know that sometimes hard work is worthless in the face of talent. Well, she didn't even call him Aze anymore. Mr. Smith also nodded and said, "If you work hard, it's good if you can get into an Ivy League school, but it doesn't matter if you don't." They didn't care anymore. They used to need Ryan Johnson to keep up appearances. But now, they didn't need him anymore because no one could beat me in terms of education. Ryan Johnson's face was as ugly as could be, his eyes were red, and he looked like he was about to breathe fire at me. Mr. and Mrs. Smith noticed it, too. "Ryan Johnson, you need to know your place," Mr. Smith reminded him. Mrs. Smith also said, "The fact that the Smith-Monsey has kept you is already showing you kindness. If you dare to do anything against Max Thompson, don't blame us for being rude." Ryan Johnson was heartbroken. He clenched the dinner knife, his eyes full of hatred when he looked at me. At this moment, the nanny who was serving the dishes suddenly took out a gun from her chest. This nanny had only arrived 3 days ago. Because the higher-ups knew I was going to reunite with the family, they had made arrangements in advance. The nanny pointed the gun at Ryan Johnson and said, "If I see you show any hostility towards the chief engineer again, I will shoot you dead." Mr. and Mrs. Smith were frightened. They never expected that there would be someone protecting me in the house. Amanda Smith was also a little scared and moved closer to me. I waved my hand to let the nanny go down, then looked at Ryan Johnson and said, "Are you worried that my return will take away everything that belongs to you? But in reality, whether I'm here or not, as long as it's confirmed that you're not a member of the Gu family, everything in the Smith-Monsey will have nothing to do with you. They would rather give the family property to a member of the Gu family from a collateral line than give it to you. That's a certainty. And I don't care about money because we have different pursuits. Finally, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't think about killing me, or you will die. Besides the people protecting me inside the villa, there are also snipers watching this place." I thought about it seriously and said, "Oh, right, there's something you might not know. My adoptive parents weren't miners. They owned that mine shaft. In terms of wealth, they're richer than the Gu family." My words left the Gu family speechless again. Mr. Smith asked in surprise, "But when we picked you up that day, why did you go down into the mine yourself?" "I created the mine's safety system. I went down to debug it. You should be able to tell how lazy I am. How could I possibly go mining?" I was speechless. Ryan Johnson said excitedly, "You mean, my biological parents are very rich?" "Yes. But I'll remind you that we have younger siblings. What should be yours will not be less, and what shouldn't be yours, I advise you not to fight for." I reminded him. They thought I had a hard life since I was a child. But in reality, I have lived in an extremely wealthy family since I was a child. My adoptive parents were very good to me, and my younger siblings and I had a very good relationship. The gift card I gave to Amanda Smith had hundreds of millions in it. I never lacked money or love. Ryan Johnson was silent for a while, then suddenly stood up and said, "I want to go back now." Whatever. I knew it would be like this. Half a month later, I was urgently recalled. Amanda Smith was chosen as my assistant and taken away with me. Before leaving, I went back to my adoptive parents' house. My adoptive parents weren't very happy. After asking, I found out that Ryan Johnson was too scheming. He wanted to compete for the family property as soon as he got home. I was a little embarrassed now because, strictly speaking, this was no longer my family affair. My adoptive parents saw my embarrassment and comforted me, telling me not to think too much. They said that in their hearts, I would always be their biological son. After they learned about my relationship with Amanda Smith, they started giving Amanda Smith gifts. My adoptive parents were very direct. They directly gave money and property, making Amanda Smith feel dizzy. Before leaving, I had another talk with Ryan Johnson, but it was more of a warning to tell him to calm down. But I could see that he was too ambitious and extremely selfish. But I didn't have time to care about these things, and I left that night. 3 years after I graduated, Amanda Smith and I finally had a vacation. We first returned to the Smith-Monsey to reunite with the family. Later, the two families got together to discuss my marriage with Amanda Smith. But due to my special identity, the wedding was very low-key, and Eve and the family members weren't invited. Ryan Johnson was a bit of a surprise. He was much more mature and didn't have so many thoughts anymore. After asking, I found out that my adoptive parents' younger brother had taught him a few lessons, making him completely calm down. Moreover, people change with their environment. The Gu family is very materialistic, and everything is based on profit. Therefore, Ryan Johnson is a selfish and self-serving person. After spending a long time at my adoptive parents' house, he slowly changed. Amanda Smith and I stayed at home for 7 days, and then we went to Washington to report on our work. After 3 months of wandering around, we returned to our workplace again. After a few more years of work, Amanda Smith became pregnant when the project was coming to an end, and I finally had another vacation.